Welcome to Web Development Lesson 8.1. In this video, we're going to see how we can pass additional information to a RESTful API call so we can narrow down the data that comes back to us. Some of that data might be in the form of an MP3 file. So we're going to see how we can use the HTML audio element to play that sound file that comes back, or that link to that sound file that comes back to us through the RESTful API call. Lastly, we're going to have to deal with something called cross-origin resource sharing, CORS, which prevents us from accessing information directly from other websites through a RESTful API call. So let's get to it. Just going to refresh this, close this out for a second. All right, so one RESTful API call that we're going to use is called Fruityvice. So let's take a look at it. And what this website does is that it provides us nutritional facts on fruits. So again, if you scroll down a little bit through the RESTful API call website, eventually you'll get to a spot where they'll tell you how to use it. So we can make a request to Fruityvice by simply using the base URL along with API fruit and then the actual name of the fruit. So I have an example of that, and you'll see that this is the information that we should be getting back. This is actually a little outdated. They've actually updated the way their information looks. So again, it's always best to get the actual sample of the information by running through an example. So let's do that. Let's paste this here. And we can see here that we get, pretty much the same information, a little bit of Latin on the particular fruit, the fruit name, and then we have a nutrition key that actually has a JSON in it with the carbohydrates, the protein, the fat, the calories, the sugar. So this is what we're looking to be able to retrieve. So when we go to our link here that we're going to use as part of our RESTful API call, we're going to take the base part of that RESTful API call, and then now we simply have to add the fruit that the user wants. So on our web page, we provided a text input with an ID of fruit for the person to actually enter the fruit that they're looking for. We've retrieved that fruit using the get function. That's part of our helper file, which is just simply a function that saves us the time of having to write document get element by ID. So let's go and concatenate that value that we get from that text input. And you can see here we use the getJSON from the jQuery library to make that RESTful API call. And then we're simply dumping that data to the console first before we do anything else. So let's go and refresh our page. Let's pull up F12. And let's make a request for, let's say, kiwi. And you'll see that we have an access HTTP request to Fruityvice from our particular website, and you can see that it has been blocked by CORS policy. So this is one of those situations where the data's there, but you're gonna have to do a couple of extra things in order to be able to request the data from an outside resources. One of the things that I've done is that I have created a Python program to act like the middle person through this. So you can almost think of this as another RESTful API call, and you'll see here in a second why. But again, I want to give Fruityvice full credit for this, is that all this Python RESTful API call interface does is that it accepts the information and then makes the request for you and then returns that information back to you. Okay, so that's really all this is doing. And again, I'm also having to deal with the CORS here, but the nice thing here, there's a real quick library that I can add to the Python program to help me with that request. So let's see how this works. And I've provided a link here, and we're going to do the exact same thing. So let's go over here, and let's type in that, and let's do, matter of fact, let's do kiwi, since that's the one we're looking for. And you can see here, we get that, oops. One too many. There. Whatever. You got the gist of it. So you get the same information back. So let's adjust our base link from working directly with FruityVice to working with that Python RESTful API interface. All right. And let's go to our website. Let's do a refresh. And let's try to pull in Kiwi again. And you can see here, we get the information back. So life is good. So now we're ready to do the nice fun job of building the card. In my case, I'm simply going to copy and paste it. I don't want to waste time in the video doing it. Again, this is something you should be able to kind of figure out. The one thing I will go through, if you haven't done it in a while, you saw it here. You can use the console as a JSON viewer in the sense that if you display it, you can actually drill down through the different keys in the JSON. So you can see here, this whole thing is data. The name is here, which is why we were able to do data.name. And then to drill down to the particular nutrients here, we would have to do data.nutritions, .calories, .carbohydrates, .fat, .protein, .sugar. And that's what I've done here. All right, so let's test it out one more time. Let's come up with another fruit. Actually, let's go back to the original fruit of, actually, let's try banana. And there you go. So we got a nice card with the name of the fruit, the carbohydrates, and then the calories. All right, so as another example of passing information to a RESTful API call, there is a dictionary API that provides us some information about a particular word. But the other cool thing is that it also provides us a link to a sound file that we can actually play. Now, some API calls will allow you to will present you what the data looks like. I personally always like to do it like this, which is to actually view the data myself. And you can see here the data is a little richer than the FruityVice. So let's go into our example and let's use our web page to kind of view the information. So similarly, there's a text input to accept the person's word. We have a link with the base of that RESTful API call, and then we simply concatenate the word at the end. Again, if you notice, going back to their API, that's exactly what you have to do. Simply stick the word at the end. We're going to do a console log of that data, and for right now, that's enough. Let's go and refresh this, and let's look up the word cat. And in here, again, this is data, so we could drill down through it. And you can see that it's an array, so we're going to have to do something like this, maybe data bracket 0. And you can see we get the first entry. And then within the first entry, if we want to get the name, we could simply do a dot word, gets us the name. But the more interesting thing, oops, let me take that out for now, is this phonetics. So if we drill down through that particular key, notice it's an array. And inside that particular JSON is an audio key that actually has a link to the audio. So how do we get to that? So notice we went ahead and opened up phonetics. And then we opened up the first one. And then we can do .audio. And let me close this up so it comes up a little higher. So again, this is a real great way to kind of essentially get the code that you need. So this becomes the path to the keys in order to get to an audio file. So the question is, how do we play an audio file on a web page? So luckily enough, HTML offers an audio element. And I'm going to scroll down a little bit to this one with the autoplay that allows us to specify another element inside called the source with an attribute of source to the actual sound file. So what we're going to do here, I actually have the code already typed in, just to save a little bit of time. And I'm going to go ahead and paste that in here. And then we'll simply just discuss what was done. So again, we already talked about the how to get the word. So it's data bracket 0. Again, remember this particular data set starts off as an array, so you have to drill down through it. And then here's that audio controls autoplay with the source element inside. And then as the tag, all we simply did was string interpolate that same, and I'm going to put the 0 back in, that same phonetics key, which had the audio key inside of it. Again, this is what we discovered by drilling down through the console, the developer's tool. So let's give this a try. Let's go ahead and refresh this. And let's put in the word cat.
A cat.
Okay, so I mean, that's pretty cool to be able to actually have a sound file that plays on your web page that's particular to the input that the user provided. You'll notice that I also provided a link. I believe this is to Wikipedia, which again, this was provided already through the JSON that was returned right here, the source URLs. So again, if the person wanted to know more about a cat, they could simply go that route. All right, so let's go back to our presentation and let's review what we've done. So we saw how we can provide additional information in conjunction with the RESTful API call in order to get more specific data back from us. The two RESTful API calls that we explored were one that returned nutritional fruit information, and one that returns a sound file in order to play a word that the person provided. It also provided a link where somebody can learn a little bit more about the word. In order to play that sound file, we saw that HTML has an audio element with a source element inside where we can actually specify the location of the sound file. When we dealt with the Fruity Vice example, we saw something called the cross-origin resource sharing exception, CORS, where some websites will not allow you to directly access the data from outside of their website. We saw a workaround for that using Python as a middle RESTful API call interface where the Python program made the request and handled the CORS exception policy for us. Again, there's other ways of doing it, but this kept the JavaScript on our web pages simple. So hopefully you're excited about being able to make RESTful API calls with precise information, and enjoy.